Good morning, Mike Doe at Melco, part of the applications team. I'm here with my amigos, Mr. Scott Stingle over on my stage left, stage right, my compadre Nate Moore doing our video jockeying for us today. Today we're going to be talking about how to run Melco software on a Mac computer. But before we get into that, we have some other exciting news around here at Melco. Always seems like we have exciting news, I know, but this is good stuff. So I'm going to look at my notes. First of all, I want to say thanks for all you guys that stopped by at the Impressions Long Beach show, said hi to us. We all loved seeing you. It was a great show. Hopefully you guys learned stuff. I know I did. Especially wanted to shout out to Margaret Januzzi and Judy. Who else did I see? I saw Stacy from San Diego. Josh was there. Not our Josh, applications Josh, but Josh, one of our customers. So once again, thanks for stopping by. It was a great show. We had a blast. Next exciting news is we're going to flip over to the screen for a minute, kind of take the excitement a little bit away from the Mac for a minute, and we're going to jump over to Melco OS. So all these M's, Mac OS, Melco OS. I'll be eating mac and cheese for lunch or something. I don't know what I'm doing, but this is Melco OS. We have a new version of Melco OS that we released, I believe it was yesterday, guys, right? Does that sound right? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. There'll be an email blast going out on this, but I wanted to give you a little sneak preview. So currently right now, if I go to Help and About, I can see that I'm running 11.11.111. This is actually a beta version. More than likely yours says 11.9 something. So what I want you to do is check this out. But if you're any earlier than 11.11.114, I want you to go to Tools, and I want you to drop down, and I want you to go to Check for Updates. And you'll get this lovely warning saying that we're going to go out and look for the internet and look to see if there's an update. I kind of summarized that myself. I hope you like that. So you're going to get this pop-up. Now, heads up, this is only for Melco OS users, not our Bravo customers, and not on the Bernina E16 side yet. So only Melco customers that are running version 11. If you're running version 10, this doesn't apply to you either. So if you're running Melco OS version 11, you'll notice that there's a pop-up that comes up, says that there's a new version 11.11.114. For us to get more information on that, we can click on this additional information. And in there, this is, right now I have not updated the software. This will just allow me to see what is changed. So a couple of the first things you'll notice is the support for the new EMT16X. The trimming type is actually called MPT, which is needle plate trimmer. It may not apply to us if we're Plus owners, but what will apply is a lot of really, really important fixes and upgrades. So I'm not going to read completely through this list, but I just want to show you how to get to it. Now, if I go back over to Melco OS, you'll see that it still says Next. Now, if you don't want to do this upgrade, at this point you can click Cancel, and it'll leave you at whatever version you have. If you wanted to do the upgrade, you could click Next, and that would take you into it. If we can go back to the screen for a minute, Nate, one of the important things that we want to point out is with this updated software, your active feed levels are going to have to increase. I was told earlier it's not a big change. I thought it was a big change in my opinion because it's like doubling sometimes my active feed, but I'll take.
Doubling if you're at like 3.
Yeah, so Nate is the one that criticized me earlier, so I'm just jabbing fun with him. Yeah, if you're at 3, you may need to be at 6. So good news is Dan and his team over in the service group got us a important notice on this. So let me show you how I got to this. I'm going to close this guy up for a minute. If I go back over to, that might have been the bad idea, but let's just do it again. So we're going to do Melco Service. If you don't have that linked on your bookmarks, I would link that for sure. You can go to FAQ, and then just type in note, or you can type in 11.11, I think works too. Let's try that. 11.11. I think he's got it linked to that too. Yeah, important notes when using Melco OS via 11.11.113 and above. We really want you to be 11.11.114. So 113 was a beta release. Some of our beta customers may have that. Beta is over, guys, so that's the secret word. Beta is over. Get to 114. But this is a wonderful, wonderful video, or wonderful, wonderful document on what your lower limit should be now versus what they used to be. If we go back to the screen for a minute, cool thing is if you guys use the presets under standard in the software, you'll notice that these numbers have been updated in there. So when you download the software, those presets will actually show you the right thing. But I would print this document out and use it for the operator. If you're the operator, then use it. If you've got other people working your machine, when you download this version, make sure they are aware that there's ActiveE changes. Once again, there'll be an email blast that Dan and the marketing team is going to send out to you all, mentioning this stuff and mentioning that it's available. So by you listening, you get a little bit of a head start on everybody. It's a great version. You're going to notice differences in stitch quality. You'll notice differences in how ActiveE works. There's a lot of good things in this version, so check it out, okay? Enough said on that one. All right, let's throw that one over our shoulders. Let's go on to our next one. We're going to talk about what we were supposed to talk about to begin with, Mac running Windows software. Or, I'm sorry, Mac running Windows software, running Melco software. Is that confusing enough? I personally grew up using Commodore 64. My cousins all had Apples, and I was jealous. So as soon as I saved up enough money, I got my first Apple. I've always liked the product. They seem like they're more reliable than a normal Windows computer. And so when I started here at Melco way back when, I was really bummed out that I couldn't use a Mac computer for my Melco software. But luckily, Mac came out with, maybe a decade or so ago, they partnered with Intel, and they put Intel chips into our lovely Macs, which improved the quality, in my opinion, of the Mac, as well as allowed me to run a different program, a virtualization program, that allows me to run Windows software. So let's mention those programs. And I've got links here, and after the session's over, I'll post these links. But the first one, and this has become my most favorite in the last year or so, is Parallels. Parallels just seems to have really kind of figured out how to make things work with as little amount of resources or pull on my Mac computer. So this is the first program that I would suggest. And so what we're doing here is these programs literally is a program that you install onto your Mac computer, and it allows you to install Windows software. So I'm running Windows 10 on here, and so it allows me to go back and forth. Right now, you're looking, if you look at the bottom corner here, you're looking at my Windows side of my Mac. As soon as I flip over here, I am on my Apple side. So literally, it's like changing screens or changing programs on your computer. You'll notice that in this case, I've got Melco OS, once again, too many M's, Melco OS running on this machine. I can load designs, I can sew with it, it's communicating with the EMT16X. It'll communicate to any of the level program or machines you've got, be it a Bravo, be it a Bernina, be it EMT16 Plus and XTS and XT. They'll all work with this software. The next version or next manufacturer of this virtualization software that I want to mention is VMware Fusion. So let me get back over there. So here is VMware Fusion. This used to be my favorite. It's still a very good program. I just think that Parallels has kind of been on top of it. And to be honest with you, it's probably been about a year now that I've been on Parallels. So VMware Fusion may have fixed some of their issues. But once again, I would say they're my second favorite. So you can see some of the pricing. This, I believe, is Pro. They've got a different version that is a little bit less. So, check out the versions. Oh, thanks for throwing that up there, Nate. I appreciate that. Walk over here and I look like I've got a screen on my head. No, just kidding. This is a really good program. And then the very last one that I'll mention is going to be Boot Camp. And so Boot Camp, this program is actually automatically a part of the Mac OS. When you have a Mac, you have Boot Camp. What I don't like about it, and I haven't used it for a very long time, so if I'm wrong on this, and we've got Mac users on here, comment and let me know because I may be wrong, but the last time I used Boot Camp, I had to shut the software or the computer down and then do like a keystroke to get it to boot up in Boot Camp. And I've got Nate shaking his head, yes, it sounds like that may still be the case. It's a free program, but it comes with a lot of other things. So I wouldn't be able to do, Mac, Windows, Mac, Windows with Boot Camp. I would have to shut the computer down and reboot it to get it back into Mac. So I really like this because I can take in Parallels, I can copy something from my Mac side and I can paste it into my Windows side seamlessly. I can actually take, even if I don't want to do screen to screen, there's a way to make all the Windows programs open up in the Mac screen. So instead of having separate windows, it opens up like it's a native program on the Mac. Once again, I'm not saying that the Melco software is a native Mac program. It is not. It has to be ran on the Windows side. The other thing, if we could go full screen for a minute, there is some information. Let me find it. I know I've got it here somewhere. Did I shut it down? Well, let's talk about where you can get to it. So if I open up a new tab and I go to Melco Service, if you're going to do Mac software or Melco software on a Mac, I want you to go to melco-service.com. I want you to click on the FAQ, and I want you to type in Mac. And in here, once again, the technical service group, Dan, shout out to you. I said it right. Got you, buddy. There's a link in here that Dan and the technical service group put up that talks about what the requirements are. And then what, if we go back to the split screen. Yes. Man, I am like pulling on your strings, aren't I? This information will tell you kind of minimum requirements. These programs that I talked about, they've got links on them already there. So I won't post links. It's right there. No reason for me to post them. Also, what Melco technical service can actually support with you. So we are, our technical service group are not Mac users. They are Power Window users, and they can help you with window type problems. So if you start using a Mac and you're having communication issues with the machine running in Parallels, your EMT16 Plus, or your X, or your Bravo, or whatever it is, more than likely, the first people that you want to call is Parallels, or you want to call VMware, whatever program you're using. You want to say, hey, I'm having problems communicating with an Ethernet-based machine. I'm not getting communication back and forth. Once you've gone through that and you've identified that it's not a Parallels or a Mac issue, it's truly a Windows issue, maybe you've got a firewall running, things like that, that's something that they can help with. But anything on the Mac side, anything at all, they will not be able to support you on it, okay? So just want to be clear about that. There's a lot of good information on this FAQ. I would start there. I would start there before you start going and installing Melco software. Understand the requirements. Other thing is understand the requirements from these users. So Parallels, for example, they say you don't have to have dedicated RAM, but I can tell you I used to use a MacBook Air, had 8 gigs of RAM in it, and it was kind of sluggish running Mac and Windows at the same time. So luckily, my dear boss upgraded me to a Pro with 16 gigs of RAM and a much better NVIDIA video card, and there is no lag whatsoever anymore. So make sure that you understand the system requirements. You know, if Mac says they need a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM and Windows 10 says it needs a minimum 8 gigs of RAM, that means that your computer needs to have 16 gigs of RAM. You're right. So you need all that RAM to be able to run it. So understand both sides of it, but it's really wicked cool to run. Once you have it installed, and I'm going to just minimize this screen for a minute. Let's go full again. Cool. And let me know if we have any questions, Scott. Nothing yet? Post your, yeah, you have a question?
No, I have a comment.
Comment.
Just be aware that when you're running in those virtualizations, and I'm mic'd so they can hear me.
Okay.
When you're running in those virtualization softwares, sometimes your key commands will change.
Yeah, good point.
It's a command key versus a control key, and sometimes you have to add one of those to make it work on that side. So if I run from my PC to, and Linda called me out, she's totally right, I run VMware on my Mac laptop. My key commands for copy and paste and whatnot in Design Shop will change slightly from what's listed in the manual.
Yeah, very good point. And more than likely, unless you're not an existing Mac user, you probably know that, but that's a really good point to bring up. If you're a newbie or just haven't used it for a while, you know, a Control C for copy now all of a sudden is a Command C on your Mac. A couple things I've seen people do is if they're using a Mac desktop, they'll have a secondary keyboard hooked up to their computer. That keyboard is set up to emulate the window key commands. That's a good way to go if you're like, dude, when I'm on the Mac side, I can use all those Mac keys, but when I'm on the Windows side, I natively want to go back to that. It's an option. It's an option. I don't know that I would want two keyboards laying around, but some people do. So that option's out there. The big thing is we're going to close OS for a minute, and I'm going to go up. So right now, I am in Windows 10. I am running Parallels, and if I take my mouse and run it up against the top of the screen, you're going to see some different options up here. And I'm going to go, once again, this is Parallels, and I think it's pretty close to the same thing in VMware from what I remember. Somewhere in here, you've got the ability to drop down and see your LAN connection as well as your USB connection, okay? Now, if you're running, let's go to split screen for a minute. If you're running software, our software that still requires the dongles, you would see in that screen up there, and I'm going to run up there again, in this device in USB, you would actually see those Rainbow Sentinel dongles show up there, okay? Anybody running version 10 Design Shop, for the most part, I mean, early on we had some dongles, but we can swap you out to a virtual security, and then the same thing on, you know, Melco OS version 11, Brava OS version 11, and Bernina version 1, there's a way to get you to where your dongle is. And some people really like that because, well, let's just face it, the USB keys are dongles. In case you don't know what a dongle is, and you're going like, what is he going Kangaroo Man on me or something? No. A dongle is a USB key used for security. And thank God Melco got rid of them, a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now? It's crazy how fast time flies. But anyways, you would see those up there. In this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to just disconnect my USB LAN for a minute, and we're going to run back up there and make sure that it shows that it's disconnected. So you see it's disconnected. When I open up Melco OS now, it may very well tell me that I'm deactivated because it changes the key. So if you make these changes, make sure that you deactivate and reactivate in Melco OS on a Mac. It's very easy to get the software to not like doing that. But anyways, at this point, we can see that I do not have connection to any machine, right? So now if I go back up there and I check the box for the USB and I go back into, let's let that take for a minute, Tools, and it's still working on activating that. Hold on one second here. Okay, just activated it. If I go to Tools, Options, and Ethernet, now I see that my box is open. I go ahead and shut OS down when I make that change, bring it back up, and we see that the machine is connecting. 9 times out of 10, if we go split again, 9 times out of 10, when I hear of somebody struggling running the Mac, the Melco software on a Mac through VMware or Parallels, more times than not, the problem is they're not connecting the Ethernet to the Windows side of it. So make sure that you fully understand how to make that connection. With the virtual software, as you see, when I went back to having that Ethernet connected, it automatically activated my software again instead of deactivating it when I was goofing around and having that. So always make sure that you have that Ethernet. You can share the connection between Mac and Windows, but really there's no reason to, because we would never want the Ethernet connection, we would never want any other connection to the World Wide Web or to our network to be passing through the dedicated network to our machines. That would just cause a lot of issues and confusion. So if you get anything from this and you're a Windows user and you're going, you know what, Mike, you're lame because you're a Mac user and down with the Mac users, it's okay, buddy, I still love you out there. Window users, I love you, but I'm a Mac user. What can I say? Just make that connection. Once you have that connection, you're good to go, okay? Any questions at this point? Boy, how many, can we get some comments out there? How many of you, if you're using Mac, let's get some posts out there. Say how much you like it or how much you hate it, and what issues you had when you're doing it, so that we can get some information going for the customers. Really, that's about it, guys. When you buy VMware Fusion, usually they'll have a link to download Windows 10. That'll be a demo version of Windows 10. What I typically do is we have a tendency, especially around here, but even at my household, we go through Windows computers quite often. And before I throw the Windows computer away, I'll erase the hard drive on it, of course, to get rid of all my data. But I'll also take, and there's usually a sticker on the computer, be it a laptop or be it a desktop. I'll call into Windows and I'll deactivate that Windows product number. That number, that long number there, is your license key to that version of Windows. Deactivate it before you throw that computer away or before you donate it, and keep that number. And then when you get something like this, instead of going out and spending $100 on Windows 10 on top of the $100 you might have to spend for Parallels or VMware, you can reactivate that code. So there's no reason. You bought the license, you own that license. When you get rid of that computer, keep that license. To me, that's just, I mean, I'm not very good with financial stuff, but when it comes to licensing or software, I'm kind of a hoarder. I'll admit it. Mike Doe, hoarder of software keys. So any other comments? Have we got anybody posting stuff? Is anybody out there? Am I all by myself? Hello? Okay. Okay, well, there's some people on here. I know it's not the greatest topic in the world. I think it is because I love Mac. But let's talk about a couple other things, and then we'll jump off unless we get some questions. Once again, I want to announce, I'm very, very excited about this. Starting next Tuesday, right, is Digital Tuesday. So we will have my good friend, Mr. John LaDrew, jumping on board with us doing Digital Tuesday. So next Tuesday is just going to be an introductory Tuesday, talking about all the cool digital stuff, equipment, software solutions that Melco is doing. John heads up that team, and it's phenomenal what we can do with the digital stuff. And then after that, we're going to talk about a lot of applications the weeks after that. So every Tuesday, we'll be doing Digital Tuesday. I know I'll be tuning in, unless, you know, he asked me to speak, and then you guys will have to listen to me on Tuesday as well as Wednesday sometimes. So next week is as an introductory. Then after that, we have some really cool applications. I want to talk about my buddy. I'm going to just step over here a little bit. The Roland GS24. I don't know if you guys know this product or not. It's a great plotter. And you might go, Mike, what is a frickin' plotter? I have no clue what you're talking about. A plotter will take different types of materials, and it's got a little X-Acto knife on it, and the head moves back and forth like this, and then there's a roller system that actually rolls the material back and forth, and instead of putting stitches down like we're used to, it actually drops that X-Acto knife, and it's probably not really an X-Acto knife, but that's what I like to call it, and it drops that thing, and it's free spinning, and no matter which way it goes, it's actually cutting the material. So all of my twill now gets done on there, as well as I'll cut vinyl, double layer vinyl. So if you do anything with applique, and you don't have a plotter, check out this Roland GS24. It's on Shop Melco. Typically it sells for $19.95. I see a question, I'm going to get to it. It sells for $19.95. Melco got a special lot of these in. There's only a couple left, and we knocked off quite a bit. $14.95. It comes with the stand, comes with a couple blades. Really good deal. So check it out on Shop Melco, or give your salesperson a call. And Scott, what's the question?
So what time on Tuesday? It's 10, I think.
Yeah, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, just like Wednesdays, just like Fridays. We'll stick with that 10 o'clock time slot. Great question.
And then clarifying question on...
Clarifying question.
If you're running this on a Mac, can you run it both on the Mac and the PC, if you have both computers?
So, great question. So, the question is, and I'll just repeat it even though he has his mic on. The question is hey Mike, so I have a Mac running the Windows software. Can I install Design Shop and or Melco OS both on that Mac Windows computer as well as a completely separate Windows computer? I believe that's the question.
Yep.
And so here's the deal, guys. When you purchase the software from Melco, or you receive the software with your machine purchase, that gives you the right to run that software on one computer at a given time. So the answer to that is, if you're trying to do it at the same time, you got, like, let's say you have two separate people trying to run the program, you would want to talk to your salesperson about getting a second license of Design Shop. Primarily, that's probably where I would see it the most, unless you have a couple machines and you want to split them apart. Same thing. Talk to your salesperson about getting a second license on Melco OS or Design Shop. But the answer is no, you can't run it at the same time on two separate computers, no matter if they're two Windows computers, two Macs running Windows, or one or the other. You need a secondary license to do that. Now, if it's just you, you can always, at the end of the day, deactivate Design Shop on your Mac Windows computer and then reactivate it on your Windows computer. Let's say that's the one you take home at night, or vice versa. You can always do that and just do the activation instead of trying to pull the dongle, forgetting it home and going, oh, crud, I have to drive all the way home because I forgot my dongle. Sounds like a personal problem. I'm sorry, I'll leave that one be. Once again, that's a USB key. So the answer is no to that. Hopefully that answered the question in a very long way. A couple more shout outs. This Friday, Sam, my dear friend Sam, will be doing Design Shop Talk. This is a chance for you guys. I know I am not a Design Shop expert. I leave that to my two compadres, Nate and Scott. They are frickin' phenomenal digitizers. I can do enough to make a design work, but I'm definitely not experts like them, and definitely not an expert like Sam. So I know I will be tuning in and learning as much as I can. But if you have questions in the meantime, please email those questions to applications@melco.com. Any questions that we get that are within reason and realm of Design Shop, we will have Sam answer on Friday. So if you are struggling with something like, I talked to a gentleman last night about step and repeat with group names. and he was trying to figure out, dang, there's like, I can save them all as one file, or I can save them as separate files, and what's the benefit, Mike? And I don't understand the differences. Guess what? Sam's going to answer that question this Friday. So if you've got questions, we've got one of our best, if you know, I would say at least top 3 in my mind of Melco, answering those questions on Friday for you. So tune in to Sam, same bat time on Friday, so 10 o'clock Mountain Time. She will be answering those questions. Let's see here. One other thing coming in February, and if we could jump back to my screen for a minute. Coming in February, let's see if I can find, there it is. We will be doing a special on allied hoops. So a lot of you probably don't know what an allied hoop is. It's also known as a gridlock hoop. It's a really cool non-magnetized hoop that gives you a lot of information on grids that you can line stuff up to. So hooping things right is really made a lot easier. And as much as I love magnetic hoops, I'm a huge fan of them. There's still certain materials, I hope we all know, there's certain materials that a magnetic hoop is not going to be better to use than a regular hoop. So for example, if I'm doing a polo shirt, more than likely that magnetized hoop is not going to hold the material, and it could potentially cause me puckering issues where a standard hoop like what we got with our machines when they were delivered will. This hoop also is made out of a certain material that makes it a whole lot harder to damage the material when you're hooping it. So look for the first Wednesday in February. We'll be doing kind of a Facebook Wednesday on the Allied hoop, talking about all these cool things it does. And it looks like Scott's got a question.
Yeah, Noble wants to know about the plotter.
Yep.
What would you use it for?
Yeah, so Noble, great question. Once again, if you're doing anything, if we could get rid of the split and just go full, thanks, sir. If you're doing anything with applique, meaning applique or patches, because if you were in my class last week in impressions, or if you've watched our patch videos before, you'll know that there's a lot of odd shapes. And so instead of having to hand cut all that product out for the appliques or for the patches, the plotter will actually replace that and cut those parts for you. So really, really cool thing that a lot of people don't know. And let's flip over to my screen for a minute. How are we doing on time, guys? We're doing great. So I'm going to open, this is a program, not really supposed to be going into this, but what the heck. We like to show stuff. So Noble, if you have Design Shop, you can actually take, and I'm going to open Design Shop. Give me a second here. Activate, and it's not going to let me because I forgot to deactivate before I did that. It's going to take an element, a walk stitch, and I can copy that walk stitch from Design Shop, and let's see if I can find a walk stitch that I can actually do this with. And yeah. Anyways, it's going to take that walk stitch. I can take it over to this software, and this is the plotter software. I can take and paste that, and it'll take that walk stitch line and automatically convert it into a cut stitch in Roll & Cut Studio. So I apologize, I can't show the full demo because I forgot to activate or deactivate my software. That's my bad. But Noble, it will take a walk stitch out of Design Shop, cut the shape on the twill on the plotter. That for me as an embroiderer is the main reason I would have a plotter. So if you're doing any kind of applique, any kind of patchwork, it's a great tool to have. And the return on investment is quite fast, because if you're doing anything in large applique, either you're farming it out, let's say you're doing letters or numbers for football jerseys or something, you might be farming that out. You're paying an awful lot for someone else to cut that material, and then you're waiting an awful lot of time to get that material back. So number one reason as an embroiderer that I would have a plotter is cutting twill for applique and patches. The other reason that I would have it is if I need to do any kind of heat transfer work in 1 or 2 colors. I usually max out at 2 colors, but I can cut the twill on this as well. So there's a lot of cool alphabets on here that I can go in and type like Melco in. And as soon as I do that, these blue lines are actually the cut lines and can be cut out of it. So if we go back to, so I'll take this piece that we did here, and I don't know, some of you may have seen the design either in our videos or at shows, but we're doing a fire rescue jacket that has this little Maltese cross. So what we did, the application here was white twill that we dye sublimated the crosses on, and then you'll notice there's 3 dots, 1 dot here, here, and 1 that I already cut off the top, but there was a 3rd one up here. And what those dots do is the plotter actually has an eye that it goes through and looks for those dots, and then it registers the cuts to be right around the colors that we printed. So you can re-register it once we put it back onto the plotter. So really cool feature, kind of like our laser alignment on the Melco or Melco machine. So Noble, hopefully that helped answer your question. Do we have any more questions? Okay, so let's just sum a couple things up. Really excited about this Friday. Sam Maribald, our resident expert on Design Shop, will be doing Design Shop talk. Get those questions into applications@melco.com. Next Tuesday, we'll be launching Digital Tuesdays with John LaDrew. Super stoked about that. We can all learn about digital stuff, how that could apply to our customer base that we have now, and also we'll be learning a lot about how we can be mixing that up with our embroidery stuff to get that cool, unique look that maybe our competitors in town can't offer our customers, and flare up embroidery a little bit. So that's Digital Tuesdays. Check out the Roland GS24 if you need more information on it. I believe we have literature on Shop Melco, or give your salesperson a call and they can get you more details about the sale. Get in on that before we run out of those. The last time I checked, we were pretty low on the special on those. And lastly, if you're a Mac person, give it a shot. Once again, read through everything. Don't pull a Mike Doe and just go for it and forget to read everything and go, well, why the heck doesn't it work? Well, Mike, because you didn't read the instructions, dummy. So I appreciate y'all. We're really having a good time. I forgot to say this last week, the week before, or whenever it was. Welcome to 2020. It's going to be a fabulous year here at Melco. We love you guys. Thanks for being Melco customers.